The cold winter wind howled over the snow-covered fields, biting everything in its path. The frost seemed to pierce through everything alive, leaving the land endlessly white and desolate. But amidst this frozen silence stood a golden figure, a golden retriever sitting in the snow. His body was dusted with a light layer of snow, yet he remained still, warming a tiny bundle of life with his own heat. Beneath his paws, shielded from the biting wind, lay a tiny kitten, barely visible against the white snow. The retriever looked attentively around, as if guarding his small charge, protecting it from the cold and any lurking danger. Friends, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. We're always curious to hear where stories of kindness and love resonate. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more incredible and heartwarming tales. The wind howled mercilessly across the barren expanse of snow, carrying with it the bitter sting of winter's full force. The world was a sea of white, endless and unbroken, with no sign of shelter or life. Amidst this frozen wilderness, a tiny figure lay barely discernible against the backdrop of frost and ice. It was a kitten, its fur matted with snow, its small body trembling violently as it fought against the relentless cold. The kitten's weak cries were swallowed by the wind, its faint meows dissipating into the vast emptiness. Its tiny frame, too small to generate enough warmth, was a pitiful sight against the harsh elements. The snowflakes that fell upon it seemed heavier than they should have been, pressing down with the weight of the cold. It tried to shift, to find some comfort in the unforgiving terrain, but its strength was ebbing away with each passing moment. The kitten's large eyes, now dull with exhaustion, stared out into the nothingness. It didn't understand why it was alone, why the cold had taken hold, or why no one came. It didn't have the strength to move far, its little paws leaving faint indentations in the snow before falling still. The frost clung to its whiskers, and its breaths came out as tiny puffs of white that quickly vanished into the air. The hollow where it had attempted to huddle offered no protection from the biting wind. Each gust seemed to slice through its fragile body, and its heartbeat, once rapid with fear, began to slow. The kitten's instinct to survive pushed it to call out one last time, a desperate cry, weak and barely audible, yet filled with the raw need for warmth, for safety, for someone. But the world was silent, save for the roar of the wind and the crunch of distant snowdrifts shifting under its weight. The kitten closed its eyes briefly, its energy nearly depleted, as the snow began to pile higher around it. It was alone in the vast, unrelenting cold, its fragile life flickering like a candle against the storm. Its eyes, barely open now, stared out at the endless white. The world around it was cold and indifferent, offering no sign of salvation. Hope, a fragile ember in its tiny heart, began to fade. The kitten's instincts urged it to fight, to survive, but its body was failing it. Hunger gnawed at its belly, and the cold had long since numbed its limbs. It couldn't remember warmth, safety, or the comfort of companionship, only the unforgiving chill and the emptiness of the snow-covered plain. A sudden gust of wind sent a spray of snow cascading into the hollow, forcing the kitten to flinch weakly. Its head fell to the side, resting against the icy ground, as its strength ebbed further. For a moment, it closed its eyes, its tiny body still trembling, though less violently now. The fight to survive had become a losing battle, and the kitten's fragile spark of life was dimming against the vast, relentless winter. It was alone, caught in the heart of a storm that showed no mercy. And as the snow fell heavier, it seemed as though the world had forgotten the little creature, leaving it to face the cold and despair on its own. The snow-covered plain stretched endlessly in every direction, a stark expanse of white broken only by the swirling gusts of wind. The silence was deafening, interrupted only by the mournful howls of the winter gale. The scene seemed lifeless, frozen in time, until a golden silhouette emerged from the horizon. The retriever moved with quiet purpose, its golden coat gleaming against the snow like a beacon of warmth in the frigid void. Each step was measured, deliberate, as if guided by an unerring instinct. Its breath formed small clouds in the icy air, dissipating quickly as it pressed onward. The retriever's nose twitched as it scanned the barren landscape, its sharp eyes flicking between the drifts of snow. Though the cold bit at its paws and the wind whipped through its fur, the dog's resolve never wavered. It wasn't aimlessly wandering, it had a destination, even if the path to it wasn't yet clear. Something, an unseen force, a faint scent, or a distant sound, pulled it forward, urging it into the heart of the storm. As the retriever drew closer to the hollow where the kitten lay, its movements slowed. It paused for a moment, lifting its head high to sniff the air. The faintest trace of life, fragile and fading, reached its senses. The dog's ears perked, and its gaze narrowed with focus. With renewed determination, it surged forward, its powerful frame cutting through the snow with ease. The wind howled louder, as if trying to dissuade the retriever from its mission, but the dog ignored it. Its movements were graceful yet strong, its golden fur glowing even under the pale light of the overcast sky. The retriever's sharp instincts had led it here, to this place, and it would not turn back now. Finally, it reached the edge of the hollow. The dog stopped, its body tense but calm, and peered into the shallow depression in the snow. There, half buried and barely moving, lay the kitten. The small creature was a pitiful sight, its fur matted with frost, its breathing shallow and labored. The retriever's eyes softened, a glimmer of empathy flashing across its intelligent gaze. The dog sniffed carefully, its warm breath brushing against the kitten's fragile body. A low, comforting rumble escaped its throat, almost as if it were speaking to the tiny creature. Then, with great care, the retriever eased down into the hollow, curling its body around the kitten. Its golden fur enveloped the small, trembling figure, shielding it from the wind and the cold. The retriever lay perfectly still, its warmth radiating like a protective barrier against the unforgiving winter. The kitten stirred faintly, its body responding instinctively to the newfound heat. The retriever rested its head beside the kitten, its ears alert and its gaze fixed on the horizon, ready to defend its charge from any threat. In that moment, the golden retriever was more than a dog. It was a savior, a beacon of hope in an otherwise desolate world. The snow continued to fall, and the wind roared, but within the hollow, warmth and life began to take hold. The retriever lowered its head toward the small, lifeless-looking form in the snow, its breath forming soft clouds that melted the frost clinging to the kitten's fur. With the utmost gentleness, the dog sniffed the tiny creature, its warm nose brushing against the kitten's frail body. The retriever's ears twitched, and its dark, intelligent eyes searched for any sign of life. A faint, almost imperceptible tremor ran through the kitten's body. It was alive, but only just. The retriever let out a soft, reassuring whine, a sound that seemed to carry both relief and resolve. Carefully, the dog shifted its position, circling once before lowering itself into the hollow beside the kitten. Its golden fur spread like a blanket over the small, trembling figure, shielding it from the cutting wind and the bitter cold. The retriever adjusted its body with precision, cocooning the kitten as much as possible while keeping one watchful eye on the snow-covered surroundings. Its warmth began to seep into the kitten, the heat acting like a lifeline against the encroaching frost. The kitten's tiny chest, which had been rising and falling weakly, began to move with slightly more rhythm. The dog's body served as a barrier, absorbing the icy gusts and replacing them with the steady comfort of its protective presence. The retriever's instincts drove its every action. It lay perfectly still, its breathing deep and steady, as though trying to sync its own life force with the kitten's fragile one. The dog's thick fur created a small oasis of warmth in the otherwise frozen landscape, its golden coat glowing faintly even as snowflakes landed on its back. Each flake melted as it touched the retriever's heat, trickling harmlessly away. The kitten stirred faintly, its tiny paws twitching against the retriever's chest. A soft, barely audible mewl escaped its mouth, a sound that might have been lost to the wind if not for the retriever's sharp ears. In response, the dog let out another low whine, pressing its nose gently against the kitten's side. The small, frail body flinched at first but then seemed to relax, reassured by the touch. As the minutes passed, the kitten's shivering lessened. Its fur, damp from melted frost, began to dry under the retriever's radiant warmth. The dog's heartbeat, strong and rhythmic, became a soothing presence, a reminder of life and safety amidst the harsh winter storm. The kitten, though still weak, leaned into the retriever's chest, its instinct guiding it to the warmth and comfort that might just save its life. The retriever remained vigilant, its ears perked and its eyes scanning the horizon. The wind continued to howl, but the dog didn't flinch. Its sole focus was the fragile creature nestled against it. In that moment, the retriever wasn't just a dog, it was a guardian, a protector, and a giver of life in a world that seemed intent on taking it away. Snow began to pile around them, forming a natural shelter that further insulated the small hollow. Inside, the retriever and the kitten were a picture of resilience, two lives intertwined by fate and instinct. The warmth of the retriever was more than physical, it was a testament to the unspoken bond between creatures, a reminder that even in the harshest conditions, compassion could thrive. The retriever adjusted its position, curling its body tighter around the kitten to shield it from the relentless wind. Its golden fur, thick and radiant, wrapped around the fragile creature like a protective cocoon. With one powerful paw resting gently over the kitten's tiny frame, the dog created a fortress of warmth and safety. The kitten's faint shivers gradually eased as it nestled closer, instinctively seeking the heat and security of its newfound guardian. The retriever's eyes remained sharp, scanning the snow-covered landscape with unwavering vigilance. Each gust of wind brought a fresh wave of frost and swirling snow, but the dog didn't flinch. Its ears twitched at the faintest sound, the distant rustle of branches, the eerie howl of the wind, and even the subtle creak of ice under pressure. Every sense was heightened, tuned to detect any threat that might endanger the fragile life it now protected. Above all else, the retriever's resolve was clear: it wouldn't leave. Not while the kitten's fragile body still clung to life, not while the cold continued its merciless assault. This wasn't just an act of instinct, it was a decision, a silent promise that the dog would stand guard until safety arrived. The kitten stirred beneath the retriever's paw, its tiny limbs moving weakly. A faint mewl escaped its mouth, a sound so soft it barely reached the retriever's ears. The dog responded immediately, lowering its head to nuzzle the kitten gently, as if to say, "I'm here. You're safe." Its warm breath melted the frost clinging to the kitten's fur, the droplets soaking harmlessly into the dog's thick coat. The snow began to pile around them, forming a natural barrier that insulated the hollow further. The retriever, ever watchful, shifted slightly to block the wind from a new direction, maintaining its role as a living shield. Its golden coat seemed to glow against the stark white of the snow, a beacon of life and hope in a landscape otherwise devoid of warmth. Time passed slowly, each moment marked by the steady rise and fall of the retriever's chest. It remained motionless except for the occasional twitch of its ears or the subtle adjustments it made to ensure the kitten stayed protected. Its tail, once wagging faintly, now lay still, pressed against the kitten's side to add another layer of warmth. The storm showed no signs of relenting, but the retriever's resolve didn't falter. It seemed to draw strength from the kitten's faint signs of life, the soft stirrings, the occasional weak cries. Each small movement was a reminder of why it was there, why it couldn't abandon its charge. As the sky darkened, casting the snowy field into shades of gray and blue, the retriever's presence became even more vital. The kitten, though still fragile, leaned into the dog's chest, finding solace in the steady rhythm of its heartbeat. The retriever's protective instincts never wavered, its every breath, every watchful glance, a silent testament to its commitment. In the vast, frozen emptiness, the retriever and the kitten became a symbol of resilience. The dog's unwavering protection was a force against the cold, against the indifference of the storm, and against the odds stacked against them both. It was a reminder of the strength found in compassion, a light in the heart of winter's darkness. As the storm began to ease slightly, a faint silhouette emerged on the horizon, moving steadily through the snow. It was a human figure, bundled against the cold, their steps crunching through the frost-laden ground. The person's pace quickened as they drew closer and noticed the golden retriever, its glowing coat a stark contrast against the endless white. Something about the dog's posture caught their attention, its stillness, its focus, and the deliberate way it stayed in place, as if guarding something. The retriever's ears perked up, catching the faint sound of approaching footsteps. It raised its head slightly, its dark eyes narrowing as it observed the figure coming nearer. But even as the dog registered the presence of a human, it didn't move from its spot. Its protective instincts held firm, keeping the kitten shielded under its paw and against its warm chest. The retriever seemed to understand that help was approaching, yet it refused to abandon its duty until safety was certain. The human hesitated a few yards away, their eyes scanning the scene. At first glance, it looked like the dog was simply resting, but something about its posture, alert yet calm, poised yet protective, made them step closer. As they approached, their gaze fell to the hollow in the snow, and that's when they saw it, a tiny kitten, nestled beneath the retriever's fur, its fragile body barely visible against the dog's golden coat. The person's breath caught in their throat, a mixture of astonishment and concern washing over them. The scene was surreal, a large, majestic retriever guarding a kitten with the care and gentleness of a mother. The kitten stirred slightly, its faint movement a sign of life, and the human realized the gravity of the situation. They knelt in the snow, their voice soft and soothing as they addressed the retriever. "Good girl," they murmured, their words carried by the still cold air. "You're protecting someone, aren't you?" The retriever's eyes met theirs, a moment of understanding passing between them. The dog let out a low whine, not of distress but of acknowledgement, as if to say, "Yes, but I need your help now." The human reached out cautiously, their gloved hand extending toward the kitten. The retriever didn't growl or move to block them, instead, it shifted slightly, lifting its paw just enough to allow the person access to the tiny, trembling creature. The kitten mewed weakly as it was gently lifted, its body still chilled but no longer entirely lifeless. The human quickly tucked the kitten inside their coat, their own body heat adding to the warmth the retriever had already provided. The dog stood, shaking off the snow that had gathered on its back. It stepped closer to the human, pressing its nose briefly against their hand as if to ensure the kitten was safe. The human looked down at the retriever, their heart swelling with admiration and gratitude for the dog's extraordinary actions. "You saved it," they said softly, their voice thick with emotion. "You really saved it." The retriever wagged its tail faintly, a small acknowledgement of the words, but its focus remained on the kitten, its concern evident even as it allowed the human to take over. Together, they began the journey back toward warmth and safety, the retriever walking closely beside the human, its steps as steady and purposeful as they had been when it first found the kitten. The snow continued to fall lightly, but the storm's fury had passed. The path ahead, though still cold and challenging, now carried the promise of rescue and recovery. The retriever, a silent and steadfast companion, stayed by the human's side, its mission not yet complete but its heart unwavering. In the distance, the faint lights of a home came into view, a beacon of warmth against the icy landscape. The retriever and the human quickened their pace, the small life they carried now secure and on its way to safety. The golden dog glanced once more at the kitten nestled inside the coat, a flicker of satisfaction in its eyes. Help had arrived, and the fragile spark of life it had protected was now on the path to survival. The story of the golden retriever and the kitten quickly spread, touching the hearts of everyone who heard it. What began as an act of instinct and compassion in a frozen field became a symbol of hope, resilience, and the unyielding bond between living beings. The image of the majestic dog shielding a fragile kitten from the winter's relentless grip resonated far and wide, sparking conversations about loyalty and kindness. People marveled at the retriever's unwavering determination to protect the helpless kitten. It wasn't just a tale of survival, it was a reminder that acts of care and compassion transcend differences, whether they are between species, cultures, or circumstances. The dog hadn't seen a helpless kitten as something other or different, it had seen a life that needed saving, and it acted without hesitation. The kitten, once fragile and on the brink of death, recovered fully under the care of the human who had found them. The retriever, now hailed as a hero, stayed by the kitten's side, their bond unbroken. The two became inseparable, a testament to the power of trust and love forged in the most trying of times. This story inspired countless people to reflect on their own capacity for kindness. Families shared it around dinner tables, teachers used it in classrooms to teach the value of compassion, and pet shelters saw a rise in adoptions as people sought to extend their own acts of care. The retriever and the kitten became symbols of hope, a reminder that even in the coldest, most desolate moments, warmth can prevail when we choose to protect and uplift one another. Their story also raised important questions about the world we create for those who depend on us, urging communities to look beyond convenience and self-interest and focus on fostering connections rooted in empathy. In the retriever's quiet heroism, people found an example to aspire to, a standard of care that could make the world a better place. How did this incredible story make you feel? Let us know in the comments, we'd love to hear your thoughts. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more heartwarming stories that remind us of the power of love, loyalty, and compassion. Together, we can celebrate the moments that truly make a difference.